To me, there's almost nothing as exciting as giving birth to a new business and then rearing it. Well, I say nothing else, but I suppose the exception is your own children. Welcome to this BVTV Startup Success Trilogy, come to you from the UK studios of BizVision. I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. I've loved reviewing the book details authored by today's guest because it delivers in an inspirational way exactly what you need to achieve startup success. And it's different, totally different, as you'll find. And appropriately, it's called The 7 Secret Keys to Startup Success. So let's meet author and managing partner at Muchow. Hello, David Muchow.
Hi, Malcolm. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Oh, well, we're, as you said before we started recording, we're across the pond today. You're in Washington, are you, DC or Virginia?
Well, I'm in Arlington, Virginia, just right across, about 3 miles away from Washington, DC.
Yeah, very impressive Arlington Cemetery. I've been, by the way, isn't it? Are you close that way?
Yes, I am. And I'm also close to all the hot air coming out of Washington.
Yeah, right. Well, it always is, Don't worry, we do the same in the UK,
Yeah.
But
you do it with so much more style than we do.
We could doing it a consistent style. That would help. David,
Absolutely.
in my opening piece, I referred to the analogy of giving birth to starting a business. So I thought, let's continue this in the trilogy with the 3 steps of startup success. In episode 3, I want to chat to you about keeping it going. In episode 2, the second step of getting started. But here in episode 1, let's start with the conception. What do you think are key considerations for any aspiring entrepreneur to be thinking about at this stage? And how does your book help them through what can often be an uncertain time?
Well, that's an excellent question. As a little background just on the book first, I'm a practicing lawyer, serial entrepreneur. I've worked with hundreds of companies over the years. And as a practicing attorney and a business person, it's surprising to me to find that there really aren't any books about the practical things, the practical questions that I get from my clients, like how do I incorporate? Do I want this kind of business or another kind of business? How do I cut my legal fees, which, as you can guess, maybe lawyers don't talk about too much. So I wrote this book to help startups walk step by step through very practical things so that they, 1, would know what to do, and number 2, what never to do. And books don't talk about what you don't do and never should do. Think about snow skiing. When you learn how to ski, they take you up to the bunny slope, we call it here in the States, and they tell you never point your skis parallel downhill, or that's where you're going to go and you don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
So as a startup, you're walking through the jungle blindfolded. At the same time, you're drinking from a fire hose, which is a pretty ugly picture. And so what you need is to know those things that you really need to know, and in what order, so you don't get overwhelmed. And to make this book more fun, I added a CIA adventure story after each chapter, practical chapters like management, finance, and marketing, to show and actually illustrate some of the principles that are in each chapter. And they're based on my experience as working with the CIA, being a federal prosecutor, working in the White House, and so forth. And they might sound a little crazy, but they really are inspired by real events. So in the kind of funny part of it, the enjoyable part, I've invented a Professor Scooter McGee, and characters like Cold Fingers Gelato and beautiful heiress Scarlet Montevideo, and ordinary professor gets caught up in things. It's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Silicon Valley. And so hopefully there's a lot of practical stuff here and fun. But back to your question. One of the first things that you need to do is to understand, I think, on a global scale, how important it is not to have 8 out of 10 startups fail. I mean, think about it.
Yes.
Apple is about a $2 trillion company. They add tens of thousands of jobs to the economy. So does Microsoft and so forth. This is a $1 trillion per year failure at least in the US economy and worldwide, because startups fail 80% of the time. So the trick is to find practical ways to prevent that. Some of these first baby steps, and back to your baby analogy, which is an excellent one. Number one is an unusual one, and that's be humble and listen. And when you're a startup person, chances are you're a great expert in something.
Yeah.
You really know how to play the cymbals in that orchestra. Congratulations, right? But now you're the orchestra leader. Now you got to know about violins and flutes and everything else. And if you don't listen to other people and understand that we're all kind of like Swiss cheese, where there's stuff we know and stuff we don't know, you are going to lose right away. So you need to build a really good team, get a really good lawyer, a really good accountant, and listen. Really important advice.
You know, when you said find a really good lawyer and a really good accountant, is it best through word of mouth, or how else would you find that really good person, especially if you're not used to it?
Well, word of mouth is an excellent way, and in fact, that's probably the way most lawyers and most accountants get their long-term clients. But there are services online that where you can look into the lawyer's background. You can say, hey, I want a lawyer who has startup experience and so forth. Go online and you can search for them. There are rating services like Martindale Hubbell that work worldwide, and they will rate the lawyer. They're actually peer rated lawyers. So it's not like you pay $2,500 and now you're the best lawyer in town. And there's a lot of that stuff. So you need to be careful about it. So there are lots of ways to do research on the internet if you identify what you need and then you search for the geographic area in which you're involved.
I particularly like the elements that you got in your book about making sure that you've got enough finance at the beginning. Everybody underestimates, don't they?
No, they really do. And why do businesses fail? If I could pick one reason, and there are 1,000, it's because they run out of money.
Yeah,
now, it's really basic, but there are 1,000 reasons why you run out of money, right? So one of the first steps that I mentioned after being humble and listen and start to build a really good team, get a good lawyer, good accountant, so you don't make mistakes right out of the bat, is find a rich partner. And it sounds basic, but I've been in businesses that were struggling, and if it weren't for some really good partners who would be willing to write some loans or help you out for a while, and who were patient with you while you're struggling, I never would have made it. And so just get super practical and say, as I'm putting my team together, let me find somebody who has some money who would be able to float this thing for a while until we become commercial. Excellent. You want to avoid the valley of death.
Yeah, I like that. I love those expressions you've got in your book. Thanks, David. Now let's give viewers and listeners details of your URL, which obviously viewers you can see on the screen behind me, but for listeners, let me spell it out. It's all the W's dot David, and it's Muchow. Let me spell that for you. David, Muchow, author. David Muchow, author.com. David's book is called The Seven Secret Keys to Startup Success, What You Need to Know to Win. And it's available from bookstores and online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. In episode 2, I want to move to stage 3 in our success journey, and that's the nervous one, the very nervous one of getting started. So can we do that, David?
Yeah, I'd love to.